All right, everybody, here we are for episode 88 of Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. We have a special guest with us, Andy Rohr. He's been on 2 times before. Andy, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back. Long awaited third visit. Day drinking with Dave Buss couldn't stop me this time.
Davers.
Shout out to the longtime listener, Dave Buss.
Yes, and we've all hung out with Dave Buss, so we understand how that could just spiral out of control rather quickly. Wayne, how are you doing this week?
Doing well, sir.
All right, everybody. So the Academy Awards, or the Oscars, as everybody knows, are after when this episode drops, they'll be like 2 days away. So we figured we kind of go down the rabbit hole of the Oscars, try to solve this thing, come up with a game plan. We're gonna write up a PowerPoint. We're gonna send it to them. No, we're not gonna do any of that, but we're going to talk about what we think some of the biggest snubs in history. I've got some articles to go off of. I know Andy's done some research of the last decade or so of film, so we'll get into that, and then we'll talk a little bit.
And I'm going to wing
it. Wayne's just going to keep talking about how he thinks. Let me see if a good movie that I can think of. White Chick should have won every Oscar ever since it came out. So
best makeup at least.
Hair and makeup. Let's be fair.
True. I would go performance. I mean, they were pretty good, pretty convincing white chicks. So we'll get into it first. I think that, when you talk about like Oscar snubs for like Best Picture, there are a couple years that I think come into mind. And the one year, I'll start with we've talked about it a little bit, but in 1990, and that was the year this movie Dances with Wolves beat Goodfellas for Best Picture. And while there are a lot of people that really, really like Dances with Wolves, I think we could agree, the three of us and probably a lot of other people, that Goodfellas has stood the test of time a lot more and a lot better, with a lot less to answer for than Dances with Wolves, which has obviously a movie about Native Americans that stars 2 white people. There's definitely some questionable things in that movie. Is it a really good movie? Of course it is. Yeah. But it definitely, I think at the time, people felt, and it's hard to believe too, that like Scorsese, how many times he's been like screwed over.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's what you get for not liking Marvel movies there, sir.
Yeah. The future is punishing him for his, in the past. Yes. I think you hit on a couple really interesting things there. I think the Goodfellas is a great example. I think look at, and you mentioned research, looking through all of these and kind of, obviously we have, foresight on our side as we look back. And of
course.
But the key word for me is enduring. What is the most enduring movie of the year? And I think, in a sense, the voters need to be prognosticators of that.
Yeah.
You mentioned Goodfellas. I mean, I think looking back, for Scorsese, Raging Bull should have won. I know you're going to hit on Private Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
I think Star Wars, E.T., Fargo, Pulp Fiction. Like, these are like movies that are, iconic, right? People are going to be talking about these forever. And
Shawshank.
These are the movies that should have won, regardless of what was topical that year, that day. So yeah. The enduring factor in terms of Goodfellas in particular, I think that's a really Dances with Wolves gets shat on a lot. In a sense, it's punished even more so for, it's kind of like the last 80s movie, if that makes sense. If you look at like a lot of the 80s movies that won, they were very much, you mentioned kind of white savior. They had like certainly a white savior ingredient in a lot of them, but they're also kind of like paint by numbers. We think this is going to win an Oscar epic. And I also don't mean to degrade Dances with Wolves. I think it's a fine movie, but Goodfellas was such a game changer. And I think people just didn't know what to do with it because it was violent or it was coarse or it had too much Joe Pesci. You know, like
Who they gave an
More
Oscar to.
pesky, the better, sir.
yeah. But I mean, like, but Goodfellas, and then after that, I mentioned a couple of others, Pulp Fiction, Fargo.
Mhm.
Those are so influential when we think about what pop culture, what TV movies look like today.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
Since we're in 1990, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I think Robin Williams should have won for Dead Poet Society.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I think he was fantastic. I mean, he's another one of those people. I mean, you watch a movie with him and it's just incredible performance after incredible performance. Every time I watch Good Will Hunting, it's just like all over again, just having those same emotions. To go back to Andy's point though, a little bit, I think you made a really good point where Dances with Wolves feels like the last 80s movies, where Goodfellas was like the beginning of a new generation because it inspired so many of those movies you talked about, Pulp Fiction, Fargo. I mean, they were definitely inspired by Scorsese into kind of that whole balls out mentality in filmmaking that he brought in that film. And that's what we talk about, and I know the three of us have had this conversation before. It's about movies that stand the test of time, and something like Goodfellas, Citizen Kane, often considered one of the best movies of all time, did not win Best Picture. So there, Shawshank Redemption, like I mentioned, that's considered one of the top 20 films of all time. That didn't win. That hardly won. I don't think it won any Oscars, or it won two very like minor. Not I shouldn't say minor, but it didn't win the big show essentially. So I think the Academy is always, I don't know what they're striving for, to be honest. A lot of times it just seems that they're striving for their friends, or like you did bring up the white savior thing. There was the more recent time, and I know you're going to get into it a little later, but I'm drawing a blank on the movie Green Book, where there were so many movies before Green Book that handled with race that they could have given it to. The one that I think is in the same category as Green Book is Hidden Figures. And it's the only one that had very little minimal white savior complex to it, starred 3 African-American women, and they couldn't even nominate Taraji P. Henson for Best Actress that year for some unknown reason. She did not get nominated. Yeah. The movie did. And then, of course, got misnamed by freaking Michael Keaton when he said Hidden Fences. The 2 black movies that were nominated that year.
Come on,
yeah, it just... And not to mention, Green Book was nominated the same year that Black Klansman and Black Panther were both up for Best Picture. So if that was your goal, if your goal was, hey, we're going to give an Oscar to a movie that dealt with racism, or in one case in Black Panther, showed how powerful black people could be, let's give it to one of those movies. Instead, they were like, we're going to give it to the one where the white guy's the lead. Like, it just... It's not a bad movie. Green Book's an entertaining film.
Right.
It's just like, what were you doing? I don't understand what they were going for.
Yeah, it's still hard to figure out how that won. It's kind of like why the Seahawks didn't run the ball, against the Patriots. Kind of like it's up there, in terms of odd decisions the last decade. I think we're critiquing it pretty harshly, rightfully so, but it's also, obviously, this is something people vote on. So it's not like there's a guy behind the curtain who's picking these movies, and it's like...
This is true.
And it's groupthink. Like, Green Book was a bit of a surprise. I think that was probably the case where all the other nominees kind of, like, in my notes, looking at this Green Book year, I think that, you mentioned Black Panther, but I'd say Black Klansman, A Star is Born, or Roma,
for sure,
to me, are the 3 movies that like stand out amongst that crew.
For sure. And I'm not saying Black Panther should have won. I'm just saying if there's a message they were trying to send, I think Black Panther and Black Klansman were way better movies than Green Book. And so I feel like that would have been a better route to go.
It was a step back. Yeah, it was a step back.
Let's be honest, Roma should have won.
Yeah, it was a step back, and it was also like Green Book. I understand sometimes if the Oscars wants to award a movie that's like outrageously popular, but Green Book also wasn't that movie. So it was just very, very strange to see that kind of emerge from the pack there.
It was a strange one. The other thing I think we need to mention too is the influence that certain people, someone who's no longer allowed in the business, had over the Academy Awards for so many years. That being the Weinsteins. But it hasn't changed necessarily. Like they're gone, but they're still. I listened to a bunch of movie podcasts and stuff, so I still hear them talk about how like, with the Oscars, like there's still people in there that are you have to sell your movie to. If you don't send a screener to a certain person, they're not even going to go out of their way to watch it. So, and there's categories where like you should, if you're going to vote, you should be required to have viewed all 5 to 10 movies that are nominated in your category. They are not. So like that boggles my mind to begin with, where it's like if they get something like Drive My Car, and it's a Academy member who doesn't like to read subtitles and also doesn't like 3-hour movies, they may not watch it, and therefore that has a lesser chance of winning now. So there are certain things I think that can fix it. I don't know what it is, but the influence is a part of it, and I think even though the Weinstein's gone, I mean, we're going to talk about 99 or 9, whatever year it was exactly, but that's, I mean, there's like with them gone, there's still that hold over Hollywood where it's like, if you're, I'll be honest, if I'm surprised Cry Macho got ignored just because people love the Academy loves old time directors doing old shit, and it's a Western. It's it's about immigration, I guess, in a way. It's a terrible fucking movie, but it still hits a lot of those notes that the Academy looks for, and it kind of while I tend to like the Academy nominated movies, they're not always my favorite movies of the year.
Sure.
There's a lot that get left off. Sorry, Wayne, go ahead.
Hey, I get to talk. Hey, everybody. No, I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. My question, well, I had 2 points. First would be the politics that goes into who, gets selected or elected to vote on these things. Obviously, it's probably skewed or tilted in favor of the people that are going to vote for the things that are heavily influenced in getting the selection, if I could beat around the bush. And the second one is, the second point I wanted to make is that's another topic that I think we could explore at another time. The worst films or the least deserving films to ever get nominated for any type of award. Because, like you said, if Cry Macho would have been nominated, I'd probably still watch and everything, but I'd be like, really?
I think it would have 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I think it would have been nominated.
Yeah, well, because I think I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure, like, critically, it wasn't hated like we hated it. It was still like,
you guys hated it. I listened to that.
The movie made Night Books feel like it was the best movie I'd ever seen. I was like, Jesus.
I didn't watch it because of your review. I will tell you. So
you didn't miss anything.
I think the politicking, that you guys are mentioning, it seems to me, and I don't know if maybe I'm combining a couple of different factors, but it seems to have entered the acting sphere a little bit more than the best picture. Like, obviously you mentioned Private Ryan, Shakespeare in Love is the greatest example, but even back from Kate Winslet winning for The Reader, which it may be a bit of a lifetime achievement award, and that's a whole another topic.
I guarantee you we're getting one of those this year too, by the way. Will Smith.
Well,
okay, sorry, you're right, 2 this year. My bad.
But I mean, I think I don't know. Maybe the Academy just loves when people play other famous people. I think about Renee Zellweger winning a few years back.
Rami Malek.
Which one? Rami Malek.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I see the two front runners. I was looking at the odds for Best Actress, and to be fair, I've not seen either of these movies. But we got Jessica Chastain playing Tammy Faye, and then we've got Nicole Kidman playing Lucille Ball. And
who's the outside one of that too? Kristen Stewart playing
Princess Diana.
Princess Diana. You're right. You're not wrong.
Yeah, it's like they can't get out of this, and it's almost like people joke about who plays the Joker.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to get a nomination, at this point if you play the Joker.
That's true. It's like, two wins, 1 nomination, or 3 nominations.
People can't get out of this like fixation on people being another famous person in terms of what makes a good performance, what makes.
Yeah, well, and you definitely have the like you talked about, the kind of makeup Oscars or the here's your, sorry, Russell Crowe, that we didn't give it to you for The Insider. We're going to go ahead and give it to you for Gladiator because it's 1955 again. Like, there's those type, and I don't mean Gladiator's a great fucking movie, people. Don't come at me on this one. But there were so many movies that year that I was like, oh, it could have gone to this, it could have gone to that. And I was like,
it was a good year looking back. Yeah.
Yeah. Traffic.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, that could have easily, and it won him Best Director and it won Best Supporting Actor, but
we're hitting on something. And Wayne, you mentioned earlier Robin Williams for Dead Poet Society. I feel like he kind of got his for Good Will Hunting. There's
he did deserve it for Good Will Hunting, though. I will say I don't feel like that was as a makeup as
well. But I think it was like, I think there is that component. And you could argue for Scorsese for The Departed.
What's
that?
The fact that Robin Williams does a better Boston accent than Jack Nicholson.
Hey, at least Nicholson won an Oscar for that role.
Yeah, but there's a lot of those makeups are like, hey, this person's been around so long, let's give it to them for this, even if it's a less deserving film. Yeah. I think in general, I'm fine with that. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but
that doesn't bother me as much because, like, someone like Joaquin Phoenix, everyone knows I'm not a Joker fan, but I'm a huge Joaquin Phoenix fan. So the fact that he has an Oscar, I think, is really cool. He should have been nominated the year before for drawing a blank on it, but it's the really like low budget indie film where he played This is where I leave you. That's a different movie. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a phenomenal performance and a very subtle performance, unlike the Joker, which is a very showy. And that's the other thing too, is like, I remember when, and this is I think a good kind of way to look that normal people, regular people that aren't movie fans look at the Oscars. Someone I used to work with when Benicio was nominated for Traffic. And I'm like, it's one of the greatest performances that I've seen. And it was 20 years ago. I was younger, obviously. But someone's like, oh, but a woman I work with was like, oh, but he was just a normal person in that movie. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, yeah. But when you see and when you look at some of the people that won, or you look at the roles that Jack Nicholson has been nominated for, and you see well, they went crazy. They went for it. You see the De Niro performance.
Weight loss. Yeah, when people lose weight, or like when McConaughey won for Dallas Buyers Club,
beating Leo, which was which was ridiculous. Jared Leto won for all that weight that he lost. Essentially, he was great in the movie, but still, like that, you make those are very, I think, realistic things that do happen. That
transformative. Yeah, but if they look like they've changed in some way. I don't know if you recalled it, but you were Never Really Here was the movie you're thinking of?
That was the one. Yeah.
He's also quite good in Come On, Come On, which was totally overlooked for everything.
I've heard that one should have been nominated. I really want to see that one. And of course, the biggest snub of this year, Nick Cage from Pig. Fucking cowards. Fucking cowards.
I would have really, really, really liked Affleck to get a nod for the Tender Bar.
For the Tender Bar, yes. For this, go to the snub from this year, I think, is definitely Ben Affleck for the Tender Bar, especially because the person they put in there that was J.K. Simmons. And while I thought he was fine in being the Ricardos, he was essentially J.K. Simmons. Like, that wasn't a subtle role. It wasn't a showy role. It was, hey, J.K., we need you to play this character. This is an actor that died not long after the original show aired, so no one knows much about him. Just be yourself. And he got nominated for that? That was confusing to me.
It felt for me like he could have just walked into being the James Jonah Jameson role on Spider-Man, the way he you said, it's basically he's just playing himself.
It was,
and again, that's not a knock. It's just an observation.
It's not, and I mean, like I said, and Wayne and I talked about it, I don't know if you've seen the Tender Bar, Andy, but to us, that was like one of his best performances he's ever given. I would have even been okay if they nominated him for Best Supporting Actor for The Last Duel, because I thought Affleck actually had a really good year. And we're going to get into Affleck in this episode. So, I mean...
Yeah, we are.
There's so many stuff. I do want to, I did say we were going to talk about the 1999 Oscars for the 98 film. So let's do that real quick. And this is, I think, a good way to look at the influence of Harvey Weinstein and where it started. So you have Shakespeare in Love, this kind of, I mean, at that point, Miramax was still making like those art house movies. So it wasn't a big movie. It was kind of essentially a rom-com, but like classier, I guess, and about a period, different period. So it looked more Oscar-y because you have the costumes and stuff. And it was nominated against Saving Private Ryan, which a lot of people consider to be the best or one of the best war movies ever made.
Is this the one where Whoopi hosted and she came out in that immaculate, like 18th century?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, because it was the same year that Elizabeth was nominated, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm looking at it right here. Yeah. Also a better movie. Elizabeth, Saving Private Ryan, I would have been fine with Thin Red Line. I thought that was a great movie. It's like you've got these other movies. Life is Beautiful, and you give it to probably, honestly, the movie that if I asked you guys to tell me a scene from it, you'd probably be like, I don't know. Like, there's that one scene where she meets Shakespeare, because that's basically
she gets naked.
That too. And also Ben Affleck. So, because they were dating at the time. So he has a small role in it. It was just such a bizarre year. There were so many movies that I think probably could, like Gods and Monsters wasn't even nominated for Best Picture. Affliction, American History X. There's these other movies I think that probably are even better than Shakespeare in Love. So when you're watching it, you could be like, all right, I get, Shakespeare in Love, sure, it's nominated. That's fine. A lot of people enjoyed it. And then when you see it win, though, it's just like, Jesus. And it's not till a few years later that I realized how much pull the Weinsteins had over the Oscars. And if you go back and you look at the history, and it sucks because it almost feels like it could taint Good Will Hunting a little bit, which won Best Screenplay and Best Supporting Actor. It doesn't for me, but I'm just saying, like, if you really look back at their influence in Hollywood, that's one of their films. So
do you think it's because it was the safest option?
Shakespeare in Love?
Yeah. Because, I mean, wasn't American History X in that?
It wasn't nominated for Best Picture, but it was that year, though. Yeah.
Yeah, that was when they only had 5 nominees. So I think.
Yeah. No, I think they were all pretty safe.
Ed Norton was for Best Actor. Okay.
Yes. I think what the problem was, looking at it now, you have the Weinstein effect, who they promoted their shit like crazy. And then you also have Saving Private Ryan, Thin Red Line, and Life is Beautiful, all war films, essentially. So you do have to look at that, has to be looked at and say, okay, there are some people that think Thin Red Line is the best. There's some people that think Saving Private Ryan is the best, and some people that like to laugh during the Holocaust. So you break those people down, and that's where those votes kind of, I think, may have gone. But I do think that being said, I still think there was an influence from the Weinsteins to get their movie the best.
And there's I think it's important to think about the narrative, like at the time. Like you mentioned all the reasons, looking back, what hurt Saving Private Ryan, but it was also considered the slam dunk.
Yeah.
And so I think whether it's a combination of people, the individual voters shying away from what they consider the slam dunk, or like, I know it sounds horrible now, like, Harvey did me this favor, I'll vote for his fucking movie. Like, I don't think many other people will, but like, and it turns out, no, that was just about everybody that thought like that. Like, I think people thought it was probably harmless in a sense. And it is harmless. We're talking about an award after all.
It is. These movies aren't done for competition. I loved Joaquin Phoenix's speech when he was like, I'm not against any of you. And then you had last year the woman from Minari get up there and say, like, we didn't play the same role, so it's not really a competition. Like, this can't be a competition. Like, I respect all of you for your work. And so it is something that, maybe we're kind of making it overblown, and something I always say gets way overblown, because I always like to point out that on the internet, when the Oscar nominations come out, the people that hate the Oscars are the ones that complain the most about the nominees. I'm like, if you don't care, why does it matter? Like, what's the problem?
I didn't read the article, but here's how I feel about the headline.
There you go. Right. Yeah, Wayne just summed up about 80% of the internet. So
that's pretty much. Yeah. That's it. You solved it. You solved the internet.
Well, my uncle has a Facebook group that's really in tune with what's really going on here.
Real.
He's got a guy that knows a guy that thought about being a scientist 30 years ago. So I think his ideas are pretty good.
Well, what I heard.
All right. So one of the articles I brought up, this is the 10 biggest Oscar snubs of all time, from Saving Private Ryan to Alfred Hitchcock. So some of these I didn't know, some I did. Like you talked about Citizen Kane losing Best Picture. Alfred Hitchcock never won a Best Director Oscar. That I did not know. And that's interesting just because he was like the Steven Spielberg or Martin Scorsese of his time, where he was so popular. You would think at some point they would have just given him one, you know?
It also shows that it doesn't matter in a sense, right?
Oh, it does. You're right. Exactly. And that's a good way to look at it too, is like,
yeah,
no one thinks less of an Alfred Hitchcock film because it didn't win Oscars or because he never won an Oscar. It's just like a weird oversight, I think. And, you know, the same goes with Scorsese. Like, was Scorsese not relevant until he won Best Director for The Departed? No, of course. He was one of the greatest directors and still is one of the greatest directors to have ever lived. It just was a weird... It was one of those things that you looked at and you're like, wait a minute, how did that never happen? You know? And they also had this thing, they used to do this a lot, and I think it's changed a lot. And I like it. I like variety. I don't like it like I liked Parasite. I wasn't a big fan that Parasite swept almost every category that year. Sorry, on my phone.
That was like on cue.
There's a nuke going off.
Yeah, so I did, you know, I like to watch the Oscars and see someone else win Best Director that did not win Best Picture, and vice versa for writing and screenplay. I am a firm believer that if you are not nominated for Best Director, that you should not win Best Picture. That's just my personal opinion. Obviously, again, like we're talking about this stuff. None of it really matters. It's one of those things like it really, you know, just enjoy movies, people. But I figure, you know, it'd be nice to just kind of get some of this stuff off our chest, or off my chest, rather. Glenn Close, always the bridesmaid. Sorry, Wayne, go ahead.
I'm just upset that Daniel Radcliffe doesn't want to come back and do the Harry Potter Cursed Child movie.
I think a lot of people are not going to be connected to Harry Potter anymore because of one person. I think we all know who that is.
Well, yeah, it's Daniel Radcliffe, of course. Everybody else is just fine and dandy. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic.
That you posit that there's hillbilly Harry Potter fans out there that are really upset.
Hey, you know, there's Christmas in Harry Potter, so that means it's Christian. Amen.
That's true. That's true. Even though there's witches and wizards and stuff, which means it's not Christian,
no,
right?
But
I don't know.
Wayne, as I was joking in regards to that, it's kind of like, yeah, you know, she says some pretty controversial stuff. So
yeah,
which is her right, but
she's a twat.
I was going to say Wayne sounds pretty Hufflepuff to me. So.
Oh no, I'm Gryffindor. We're dwell the brave and bold.
Oh, all right. We talked Saving Private Ryan. Oh, the other one too. Spike Lee never winning Best Director. You could have easily given him Best Director for BlacKkKlansman or any of the other number of movies that he's made over the years. I stand firm by my fact that The Five Bloods was shut out from getting nominated at all last year. Which pissed me off, but
I can't believe Delroy Lindo wasn't nominated. That was funny.
You know, I had a good friend of mine. He really thought that he overacted that a lot, and I'm like, so if you had a lot of people out there, I guess that thought he was like not doing the role justice, but I thought it was perfect the way he did it. So
yeah,
it's just how you view it, I guess. I don't know. That was a weird one that it got shut out completely.
What about Soul Plane?
Soul Plane, biggest snub in history. Snoop Dogg for Best Supporting Actor. Stanley Kubrick was shut out. Pam Grier and Jackie Brown were robbed. Obviously, this person is a huge Jackie Brown fan because that's a weird specific one in there, I think. She is amazing in it, and I would have been way okay with her winning the Oscar for that.
Well, Tarantino, I think, to bridge that, you know, I mean, I know he's won awards, but not to have won Best Picture for that,
which is, I think at this point, and for me, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood should have been the one that did it, just because of how fucking gorgeous that movie is to look at.
I finally saw it, and yeah, you are absolutely correct. Amazing.
I told you, man. It's one of those things. I don't know how you feel about it, Andy, but
it's a movie that I own. I like it a lot. I have some issues with it that continue to kind of gnaw at me on repeated viewing. But you know, maybe we can have a future future pod down the road.
let's see. Peter O'Toole couldn't have a win. That one was famous, and he eventually got an honorary one, I think, before he passed away. Cicely Tyson, another one this person wrote about. Oh, the other biggest movie, I think, and this goes back to worst movies winning Best Picture, Wayne, like you were talking about. Crash. Crash beating Brokeback Mountain. And I liked Crash when it came out, just like we talked about Andy before. I love American Beauty. Kind of nervous to go back and look at that movie. Same with Crash. Like, I liked Crash when it came out, and when it won, people were angry.
Yeah.
Ang Lee did win Best Director, and I will agree. I think Brokeback Mountain is definitely the better movie.
Yeah, I think that's it goes back to the narrative of Brokeback seemed like a slam dunk. Plus, I think that Crash winning, if I recall, that was part of the reason that they added more nominees.
Maybe
I'm thinking of Dark Knight. Actually,
yeah, Dark Knight was a couple years later. That's where which is hilarious because they didn't nominate like any comic book movie for like a long time after that, even though they were like, "This is why we're doing it."
But yeah, Crash was such an oddity. I'll never forget Ryan Phillippe just jumping up and down. Couldn't believe it. I couldn't either. Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, in hindsight, I think it was an odd choice. I think it was the fact that you could look at it similarly to Green Book, is they had never really given it to many movies that deal with race up to that. Both when Crash was nominated, there was nothing else that was really with it. So, like, they're like, well, racism's a problem, so we should probably just give it to that one, I guess. And what I mean? Like, yeah, exactly. And I think that's a lot of where that came from. It's definitely not a perfect movie, I would say, but I thought it was I haven't seen it in a while. I thought it was a really good movie at the time. So I didn't personally have a problem with it winning. I think a lot of factors you look at it too, again, similar with Green Book, is another movie about race directed by a white guy, written by a white guy. So you have a lot of that in their history as well, that you would think at some point maybe they would try to get away from that.
Yeah. I think you mentioned, Crash and Green Book aren't normally in the same sentence, but what they do have in common is two overtly racist characters that do acts of good that redeem them in some sense. So I think that is problematic.
It is. And we're watching As Good as It Gets again. Speaking of Oscar movies, Nicholson and Helen Hunt winning. That's a hard movie. I think that you'd be able to make today, because he's an anti-Semite, he's a racist, he's homophobic, and granted, yes, by the end of it, he kind of starts coming around. But even my wife was like, "Well, you remember he does kind of have a disability." I'm like, "Well, yeah," but I'm pretty sure the racism and homophobic stuff was thrown in because he was 60, not because he was autistic. If you make that movie about an autistic guy today, you may get some of the insensitive stuff, I think Jim from Big Bang Theory. A lot of times he would say things that are inappropriate because he didn't know how to be around people. So you get that with Nicholson and As Good as It Gets, but then you get a lot of racism and anti-Semitism to go along with it, which didn't. Oddly enough, written by James L. Brooks. So I don't know.
No, that's a great point. I mean, a lot of movies from the 90s, 2000s, it goes back to, they acknowledged that something existed. They acknowledged that gay people existed, but they were also, they were the butt of the jokes.
I just rewatched 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
It's hilarious, but there are moments where you're like, ooh, maybe you could have dialed back a bit, guys.
I know we're talking about Ben Affleck later, but I actually rewatched Mallrats recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know when the last time you guys have seen that.
It's been a couple years.
It's about 30 years old or close to that now. Yeah. But it's super problematic for a variety of reasons. And it's remarkable to look at that. And I loved the movie as a teenager, and now it's like, oh wow, I wouldn't, well, there's so many flags. It's about every scene.
Oh yeah, and the thing is too.
I too have trouble with the I Spy books.
Nice callback.
Seth Rogen said recently, because they've talked to him about how his comedy changed, and And is it weird that you can't do anything anymore? And he's actually one of those people that's like, what do you mean? He's like, we could still do things. He's like, but times change. He's like, there's things I did 10 years ago, and I'm sure he's referencing Knocked Up and 40-Year-Old Virgin, that I wouldn't do today because times have changed. Things have gotten different, and those times should have never happened. But unfortunately, that's where we're at that point in society, and it wasn't that long ago. And that's why when it's funny to me when people get upset over, oh, come on, it's like it's that big a deal. It's like, this shit has been, people have been homophobic, in film for like a really long time. And now I'm on Twitter and it gets called out. Like if someone makes a gay joke, like someone will be on Twitter, be like, really? Like we're in 2022 and this is where you guys get your humor from still? And
yeah, absolutely.
So, anyway, we're getting a little off topic here. So.
Just a little. Yeah.
A little bit. It happens week to week. Wayne's used to it.
I'm usually the cause of it.
Usually. Well, Wayne, is there anything specific that I know, again, that you didn't have the research, but that's something that you think of that should have been nominated or should have won, or you would have liked to have at least been seen represented at the Oscars?
Not so much that. I'm just back in, was it 2003 when the last Lord of the Rings Return of the King won? Still kind of just shocked, in a happy shock that it actually, fantasy and I don't know. I was going to say make believe, but it sounds like it's belittling.
No, I get what you mean. Like you don't see a big genre series like that usually win an Oscar, and many Oscars, which it did. Now I do. While I agree with you, and I love that it won all those Oscars, part of me feels like too, though, that it was like, we didn't give any to the first two, so we're just going to throw them all at the third one. Like it was like it was planned almost, is how it felt to me. It was like
100%.
Yeah, like
for the fact that nothing else has come close into like that realm,
right? Of sweeping like that, yeah. And and then I look at movies like Mad Max Fury Road, which I would have loved to see that do that. I know Wayne disagrees with me, but I would have loved to see that do that. And it didn't. It got a bunch of nominations, but it didn't win all the Oscars like I wanted it to. So
yeah, that's actually one of the ones on my list here of more recent ones that year in particular.
Yeah.
I mean, Spotlight winning. If Mad Max isn't your cup of tea, I think Big Short is also worthy nominee and potential winner. Again, thinking about what's the movie that's going to stand the test of time, or that people will look back on that is reflective of that period. It won't.
Now, if I remember correctly, that was a pretty good year, though, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Spotlight was great. I like Spotlight.
I think Spotlight is, but I think in terms of legacy, you're already seeing that The Big Short or Mad Max Fury Road are
Was this
movie.
The Great Confusion Award show where
that was
17, right?
That was the following year. La La Land, Moonlight,
Spotlight, Moonlight. Yeah. My bad.
I think the jury's still out on that year. I really like La La Land. I think that would have been a worthy winner. I understand why Moonlight won.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. But if I could rattle off a few of these, I think Shape of Water winning 2018 already looks kind of out like maybe a mistake. Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Call Me by Your Name, I think are all better than Shape of Water.
See, what I loved about The Shape of Water, though, and why I was happy it won.
I like Guillermo. Don't get me wrong. I like Nightmare Alley.
First off, huge Guillermo fan, obviously. But what I liked about it, too, was that it's basically a horror film. And the fact that I Get Out is as well. So Get Out winning would have been awesome, just as cool, I think. But the fact that you don't see the weird movies like Shape of Water walk away with that many awards usually made me appreciate that year a little bit more. Just because I felt like it was a win for the horror genre to have a movie like that kind of get all those big awards. That's the only reason. And I look, Get Out won best screenplay. So they did. And that's when I say, spread it out, they did. Jordan Peele got his Oscar the same year Guillermo del Toro got an Oscar, which I thought was really badass. So, but I do agree. I think Get Out is definitely a better movie. And I think I was more because, Get Out's a horror film. I think Shape of Water was weirder. So I was more like, oh yeah, this is the weird movie that won. But you're right. I mean, The Shape of Water, I I don't know anyone. The last time anyone's had a conversation with me about The Shape of Water.
Right, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. When's the last time? Is that a rewatchable movie, like compared to some of the others that I mentioned?
Yeah, okay. I'm looking at a list here. They had Mad Max over, Spotlight beating Mad Max, Shape of Water beating Get Out. First one was Roma losing Best Picture, even though it did win Best International Film, but it lost Best Picture to Green Book. Let's see, what are the other ones they have here? Birdman beating Boyhood. I think both of those movies are somewhat controversial when you talk wide audience, because they're both very niche movies.
Let me throw another. I mean, that was a good year also.
It was a really good year, yeah.
I think that would have been a good time to award Wes Anderson. I think Grand Budapest Hotel is a great film.
I would have been more than happy with that one winning.
Yeah.
Argo beating Amore.
Yeah. 2013, there's a lot of I mean, Django, Lincoln.
Yeah, Django. Lincoln was really good. Yeah. Zero Dark 30.
Life of Pi. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Life of Pi. I love Life of Pi. Ang Lee's second Oscar.
We haven't mentioned, we've gone 41 minutes in the podcast without mentioning The Artist yet.
Right here. Now, I haven't seen Tree of Life. So
what does Prince have to do with anything?
You know what? It makes a lot of sense though too, because like it's a movie like when's the fuck the last time talked about The Artist? I mean, shit, man. Like I felt bad because I watched that movie when it came out, and I didn't really like it. Was good, but I didn't love it. So I was like, I want to watch it again. But now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, did anyone really care? That was a weird year too, though, where like the Tree of Life I feel like no one really saw.
It was a weaker year. I think looking back, I think Moneyball should have won.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Moneyball is one of my favorites.
The previous year, King's Speech. I think another good movie, but Social Network, Inception.
Wow. The Weinstein Effect. I mean, that was the King's Speech. That was one of the last times that they had that sway on people. Great movie, but like you said, it's not something that people are still talking about. It's kind of like, I think when it pops up, people are like, oh yeah, that movie.
Yeah. I think even Toy Story 3, would have been more worthy that year. So those are some of the recent ones that I was looking at that aren't maybe is kind of like infamous in history, but
Beautiful Mind over In the Bedroom. In the Bedroom is really good.
Yeah. What were the other? I feel like there was another big not to like.
Let's see. Moulin Rouge. Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
Gosford Park.
To Wayne's point, I think I feel like that Lord of the Rings movie should have won.
See, I would have gone with Two Towers. Is my favorite, but
Two Towers should have beat Chicago. I mean,
I agree.
The first two Lord of the Rings movies probably were the best pictures. They awarded the third one very good, but maybe shouldn't have won. But that's just how the Oscars are. That's
exactly.
a great
You basically just described the Oscars. Gladiator over Crouching. Gladiator over Crouching Tiger. I think Traffic would have been the one to go get that year, especially because Crouching Tiger did win Best Foreign Film that year. Again, I'm with sharing the love. I don't care. I don't like to always see. Like, I'll be disappointed if and I love The Power of the Dog. It's probably one of my favorite movies of last year. If that sweeps the Oscars, I'll be kind of disappointed.
Yeah, totally. Especially because it hasn't captured the imagination of like the country or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be disappointing if it had anything close to a sweep.
The English Patient beating Fargo. Wayne, did you ever see The English Patient?
Yeah, he did.
Nope. No, I don't think I've ever seen it either.
I was doing a kind of a dirty joke, but or at least that. No, you guys didn't even see that one scene.
Hang on, let me Google.
Yeah, I mean, Fargo clearly should have won. That's one of the. Yeah,
that's a movie that stood the test of time so far.
Oh, easily.
My Left Foot should have beaten Driving Miss Daisy. What else was that year?
Among other things, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Do the Right Thing was that year. That was that great quote from Spike Lee. Anytime someone's driving, I lose. Because he lost to Green Book.
Yeah.
Yeah, E.T. losing to Gandhi. You mentioned that one. Raiders losing to Chariots of Fire. I've never seen Chariots of Fire. No one I've ever
Oh
known.
my god, boring.
Say no one
It's
I've
got
ever
the slow
talked to has
motion
ever
scene where
said,
they
hey.
run on the beach, and that's what won them the award. Let's do a story about cross country running.
Well, I thought on Golden Pond won.
Not according to this. Winner Chariots of Fire.
Oh, I'm thinking of Ordinary People, which is like the same movie.
Oh, okay.
Just a bunch of people talking.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm joking because that's what people will complain about movies that I like a lot. Oh, just people talking.
Yeah. Trust me.
But you know what I mean.
Wait till you watch Drive My Car, and then have somebody else be like, "It's about people talking for 3 hours in a car."
We have a joke in my house when I'm watching a movie, often a foreign film. My wife will say, "So you're watching this on purpose?" So now we have a thing. She's like, "Oh, this is one of those movies you're watching on purpose." She'll just say that if it's like a serious movie, like.
So lately, I've been picking some. I've watched Titane. I've watched The Lamb. I don't know, and my wife won't be paying attention, and then the weirdest shit in the fucking movie will happen, and she'll be like, "Really?" I'm like,
oh, that's fantastic.
So, and I watched lately. I've been picking a lot of weird. Go ahead, Wayne.
Without giving anything away about what we're going to talk about next, Miranda walked past the TV during that one scene in the Affleck movie. It's like, it's not all about this, I swear.
Just in time.
I get that a lot where they'll like cut to a sex scene in the middle and it's really loud. All of a sudden, I was like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, it's a movie. People have sex sometimes. The Apocalypse Now losing to Kramer versus Kramer. I agree with that one. Apocalypse Now is incredible. This one, now, Wayne, I think maybe you could talk to this one. This person says it's an upset that Rocky beat Taxi Driver. What do you say to that?
Big size.
I won't argue it because it really could have gone either way. Honestly, Taxi Driver is.
Yeah. I think that's a good year to look at for what we talked about movies standing the test of time, because here you have someone arguing against a movie that is obviously, unarguably stood the test of time in Rocky.
That was a great year, though, also.
I think that's what you kind of look at, right? That was a phenomenal year for movies. And it was just one of them had to lose. And they went with instead of the crazy guy who goes around killing pimps, they went with the guy who gets excited that he lost a boxing match.
Come on, Middle America's not into that shit? Yeah. No, I mean, you had All the President's Men, Network also in that year.
Network's so good.
They did some Bound for Glory stands out there. Yeah, I mean, that's a great, an absolute killer year. So.
All right, Andy, in your research, is there anything you wanted to talk about within the last 10 years that kind of stuck out to you?
Well, I kind of hit on a lot of the ones that of more recent times. Okay. I'll be interested to see how Nomadland. You mentioned Parasite earlier. I think Parasite, because of the themes and because of the breakthrough, will I think that'll stand the test of time. Even if I know what you mean, it wasn't maybe our favorite movie, but I think it was worthy. Certainly.
Don't get me wrong. I loved Parasite. I think the problem with a movie like Parasite is if I hear another person go, "Oh, is that foreign film like Parasite?" No, man. Yeah. They're not all Parasite. You know what I mean? It's turned in because it became so popular and my parents saw it. Everybody saw this movie that whenever you mention a foreign film, people are just going to be like, "Oh, is it like Parasite?" It's like, no, bro. It's about two people driving a fucking car for 3 hours. And yes, they're Asian, but it has nothing to do with Parasite. You know what I mean? It's just
people probably thought Minari was going to be I mean, I think that's to what your point is. I
thought Minari probably should have actually won.
Minari was great. Options. Yeah. I think, it's the danger of that. I mentioned Nomadland. I'm curious to see how that ages.
I can tell you right now, I really like Nomadland. It's going to age poorly. People are going to.
That's kind of what I think. I know last year wasn't the strongest. I was a big fan of Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yes, same here. That's what I should have thought won. Should have
won. Killer movie.
Yeah, with Nomadland and everybody driving around in their cars, have you seen gas prices?
Hey-yo.
I had to. I'm sorry. I had to.
This is going to make people angry in 10 years.
Yeah, God.
There's no way she could afford that. This movie's bullshit.
It's not believable.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, I mean,
How about an oddity real quick here?
Sure.
Let's go to 1973. Obviously, I'm going to bring up The Godfather. And in the supporting actor role, 3 guys from the same film. Pacino, Duvall, and Khan. All up for best supporting actor, right?
yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, and none of them won. So,
Who won that year?
Joel Grey for Cabaret.
Who?
Oh, okay.
I never saw Cabaret.
Yeah, I'm a Merlot man, so I don't know about that Cabaret. I was trying to stay away from that stuff. I don't know it.
Split the vote, I guess, for that.
Godfather won Best Picture that year, though. Correct.
Correct.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It beat
And
Cabaret.
Marlon Brando won for actor.
Which is weird because Pacino would have been the star of that movie. Like
Exactly.
that to me is kind of odd in itself. And that's another thing too with the Oscars, the fact that last year with Judas and the Black Messiah and Lakeith Stanfield being nominated for Best Supporting Actor in the movie that he was the star of.
Right.
Like you have like the Oscars can choose, or the people that submit the movies can choose what category to submit them for. That to me was strange. The fact that, Lakeith Stanfield, who's in say that's a 2-hour movie, he's in maybe an hour and 40 minutes of it, was nominated for the same Oscar that Anthony Hopkins won Best Supporting Actor, wasn't nominated for. Actually, blowing my mind even more, Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor for Silence of the Lambs for 35 minutes of a movie. Lakeith Stanfield's in almost the entire film, is the main character, and gets nominated for a supporting actor role.
Yeah.
I know you can't see me right now, but my mind is blown, people.
I was like, what are you talking about? I'm looking right at you.
Yeah, you can't see it, but Kirky just threw his diet soda against the wall. Just absolutely furious.
But I remember when that happened last year, when all over Twitter people were like, well, then who was the lead of the film? Like, because they were both nominated. And it was, I even agree it was weird that Kaluuya was considered the side character because it's about both of them. So
yeah,
just a weird nomination kind of like standard, I guess. And then, like I said, the fact that you can sometimes then get Mahershala Ali being nominated for supporting actor in a movie that he was in 85% of.
Yeah.
Don't understand. And part of that too, it seems shitty because then you wonder, does the studio think that a black actor has a better chance to win supporting actor than lead actor? So that's why they did that? Or did they do it?
I think the answer to that is yes. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. You're right. So this year, I know we haven't, not everyone. Wayne, have you seen every movie so far for Best Picture? You might have, actually.
I have not seen Drive My Car yet.
Oh, okay. You haven't watched that one yet. Okay.
And I kind of try to. I being having struggling with the dyslexia and reading and keeping up, and
no, I get it. Yeah, for
it's a rough one for me. So
no, and
it's not even that bad. It's just, thankfully it's only sporadic, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I get it, man.
Excuses. Here's my long list of excuses.
So out of the Best Picture nominees right now that you've seen, what would you say is the best movie you saw from last year? Andy, you go first. And then
I was like, who are you posing this to? Okay. Can I throw some caveats in here?
Sure.
Okay, so the movie that I liked the most on first viewing of the nominees was Licorice Pizza.
Okay.
I don't know that
fantastic movie.
Okay, there you go. Wayne's a big fan. I don't know that it'll be the one that I watch, like, I'm going to rewatch this movie again and again, like I might Nightmare Alley or Dune.
Yeah.
In the future. I think it's the year in general has kind of a high floor. There's not really a movie there that I was just like, oh, can't believe that's among these.
Yeah.
Although at the same time, I don't think it was necessarily a particularly strong year where I feel overly passionate about 5 of these or anything like that.
No, I agree. And
again, I don't know. Maybe I'll be a big, Belfast fan when I see it.
It'll change your fucking world, man.
Yeah.
I look at them and I think I thought that too. Like, there are definitely a lot of movies I saw last year that I was like, oh wow, this should be nominated, and it didn't even get looked at. And something like, again, like Pig, you look at that. If you guys haven't seen it, I really recommend it. Very subtle movie, and I know I'm talking about Nick Cage here, but a very subtle performance from Nick Cage. Such a great movie. Definitely could have been, I think, among these movies and a front runner, to be honest, if people had actually seen it. Wayne, what do you think out of the ones you've seen? Would you go Licorice Pizza as well, or is there something else you would?
Yeah, probably. I really liked Belfast as well.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, my favorite's The Power of the Dog right now. I haven't seen Licorice Pizza, but I really liked Coda a lot. Let's see, Belfast, I thought was really good. Drive My Car, Dune. Now, so what do you guys think of the Dune? It's funny they have it at the top here. Nightmare Alley, Don't Look Up, and Dune trio of like somewhat bigger Hollywood fare. Not critically like loved by everybody, but still, at least Don't Look Up obviously critically was like in the middle. Dune and Nightmare Alley I think are like 80 something percent on Rotten Tomatoes. I know not everyone uses that as a metric, but just for the sake, that's what we use here. So so what are your takes on those three movies specifically?
I think, yeah. I mean, Don't Look Up. I'm wondering what is its Rotten Tomatoes
It's
audience?
like 53. Oh, the audience score is like a little higher, like 68 or 70%.
Okay.
I want to say.
I mean, obviously it's a super political movie, and that casts such a big shadow on it. I liked the movie. I know some people that love the movie, and they're it's obviously about a very important issue. I think the question marks surrounding it are about the delivery of that message,
Yes.
and questions around the tone from scene to scene, or just in general the delivery of that. And I know that bothers Adam McKay and Serrata, I think the screenwriter who used to work for the Sanders campaign. So there's just a lot of baggage that comes with Don't Look Up. I think I'm happy that it was nominated.
Yeah. Same.
I think it's an important movie. I'll try to go a little more quickly now. Dune being part one of something, I'm left feeling incomplete at the end of the movie. I liked it, but that's partly built into I might rewatch this more again once they kind of fill out the rest of things. Visually super, super appealing. It's also like one of the most humorless movies I can recall.
Yeah, very slow. For me, it's just like, all right, let's go.
It's so slow. Thank God Jason Momoa is in there to smile.
That's a good
makes me smile too. Hello.
All the ladies. Nightmare Alley, I know was the other one you mentioned. I thought that was fantastic. That really speaks to cinephiles.
Yeah,
I think,
for sure.
I
liked it more than Wayne did. So yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, and that's kind of my. Yeah, I mentioned Licorice Pizza, but if I was to say my two favorite, it's Nightmare Alley and Licorice Pizza of these nominees this year. I know you want to pass the baton here, so Wayne.
So Wayne, what are your thoughts on those three I mentioned, the three kind of genre movies?
Well, we'll start with Nightmare Alley. When we reviewed it, had a lot of big fish qualities to it, which I loved, so I immediately was drawn to it. But then it's really a tale of two movies, and for me, it really dropped off in the second half. So
yeah,
it's nice that it's nominated, but I don't think it's going to win. I just meh.
It's got no chance of winning. No.
Don't Look Up. Basically hit the nail on the head with the political nature of it, and while it was funny and whatnot. I don't know. Again,
it's basically in there because it's a comedy. I mean,
Wayne just shrugged for the people that can't see.
Yes, I need to vocalize my shrug.
It's in there because it's funny, and that was my big thing when they nominated it. They nominated it mainly because that was the main comedy that was Oscar level type that they could put up there. So anyway, on to Dune.
Again, like when I chimed in on when Andy was talking, how it was so rudely of me. It was just so slow in the beginning. It's like boring. But I mean, then again, that's just the story. Visually, it's very appealing, and the sci-fi aspect of it. Once it picked up, it's like, you know, one of the points that I made when we were reviewing this is like, so they're going to take a bunch of like swords and axes fighting against laser cannons. Oh, good luck to you. Thoughts and prayers. So.
It was when me and my buddy was in town when it came out, so we watched it together on HBO Max, and our thought was, we're like, yeah, we liked it as long as they make a second one. If they don't make a second one, because at that time we didn't know, they weren't sure if they were going to make it or not. I'm like, we're both like, if they don't make a second one, it sucks, because then you're left with half a movie and you just don't really, that would just be disappointing, because we did enjoy it. We had a good time with it.
That'd be like not making Endgame and Thanos just wins.
Yes, exactly. Like, we ran out of money. You guys can imagine what happened. So the other, I will say, the other Lifetime Achievement Oscar I think that's going to happen this year, Andy, is Jessica Chastain, who undoubtedly deserves it for her many performances. I have seen The Eyes of Tammy Faye, or whatever the hell that movie's called. It's okay. She's great. Don't get me wrong. She's fantastic in it. Garfield's really good in it.
Yeah.
They did a good job making her look good as an older person, as aging her through the movie. Garfield looks like a young kid wearing old man makeup. I mean, just because he's got that baby face still, so it's not really his fault, I guess, but maybe just they could have cast someone else, I guess, to more look. Because there's a point where he's like total gray on top, and I'm like, it's fucking Andrew Garfield. You're not. Sorry.
Ran out of budget.
Yeah, exactly.
With his Uncle Ben looking ass.
Yes, and I like Michael Showalter directed that one, so I'm a big fan of his too, but the movie itself was just okay. It kind of felt like Vice, where you're just kind of like, I don't really care about any of these people, and yeah, everyone's great in it, but
yeah,
but never going to think about it again.
I'm fine with her getting that.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But I just totally think that's what it's going to be. It's a total.
So
lifetime.
Was that the life and times of Tammy Faye Baker, the chick that swindled a bunch of like
yes,
people with her televangelism with her husband?
Yep.
Huh.
It's on HBO Max and HBO. So if you guys want to check it out, it's definitely
waiting there for us, Wayne. It's waiting right there for us, Wayne. Right after the podcast. I know I'm going to jump on it. You
right now.
I might hate watch it.
I'm actually halfway through it, guys.
Tell me about. So I hate to ask questions. Did Garfield get nominated for Best Actor
for Tick Tick Boom?
Yes. Okay.
Yes, which is great. If you haven't seen, I don't know if you've seen that one.
I think that should have been nominated for Best Picture.
I agree. That's where I loved people too. They're like, "Hey, Academy, you can nominate more than one musical, right?" Like, because I liked West Side Story. I honestly like Tick Tick Boom better. So
Tick Tick Boom was over West Side Story for sure. West Side Story looked beautiful, but it was also sorry, it was a chore to watch. I thought
that's that was Wayne's takeaway.
When you're a jet, you're always a jet. Get on that jet and fast forward through these damn songs.
What I don't understand, and I think I talked about it when we reviewed it, I don't get people that didn't like it, because I watched both movies in the same week. It's the same fucking movie.
The original?
Yeah.
Or what
it's the same. Oh. Yeah, it's the same movie. Just they jumbled a few songs here and there to different parts of the story, but it literally is the same fucking story. So
yeah, I mean that speaks to why did they make it?
Spielberg.
And I know that was the big question.
It's just Spielberg. That's why he wanted to make a big time musical like that, and that was the one he wanted to do, I guess. And since he's now, I kind of love that he's now in the part of his career where he's just like, I'm going to do that. And they're like, all right, whatever.
He's at the Steven Soderbergh stage of his career.
Yes, basically, except on a much larger budget.
No, I joke.
For Soderbergh's like, give me $100, a bag of Cheetos, and Zoe Kravitz, and I got you a movie.
Yeah, don't have Zoe Kravitz, Zoe Dutch. Yeah. Just to be clear, I liked West Side Story generally. It was just really long, and it was like, why are we making the same movie we had 60 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, nothing
I will
different.
say it was nice to have it with real Hispanics in it. Because that was the one. That was the one note I made when we were reviewing it. I was like, now with more Hispanics.
It's important. It's pretty important. Yeah. Okay. Fair point.
All right. Well, let's get on to our reviews
of the week.
Alternating it every week. I love it. All right, Wayne, why don't you intro our first movie starring the great Ben Affleck and his former love interest in real life and in cinema, Ana de Armas.
No. They broke up. Him and J-Lo are a thing again.
Yeah, I know. Hold on. It brought up the Deepwater Australian crime series. Hold on. Find the right movie here.
Isn't
Go
that
ahead.
the one with the oil drilling and Mark Wahlberg?
Yes. Go ahead and intro the movie for us, Wayne, if you don't mind.
I am finding it as well because I closed the wrong.
No worries.
Wrong tab up.
We've only been doing this for almost 90 episodes, people. We'll get there one day.
Hey, I can start talking about it if you want.
Yes, go ahead, please.
So, Deep Water, available on Hulu right now. Adrian Lynn, I believe is how you say it.
Yep.
Back after kind of a break, but has done a lot of these erotic thrillers. I'm going to say it like that. In the past, Fatal Attraction, 9.5 weeks. Is it 8.5 weeks or 9.5 weeks?
9.5 weeks.
9.5 weeks. Unfaithful Flashdance. I don't know if that's an erotic thriller, but that's kind of this guy's track record, which kind of, they're obviously making a play for kind of this dead genre.
Yes.
I guess that's kind of a highlight in a sense that, like, there's going to maybe be more of these types of movies.
Yes.
All right, Wayne, I'm going to pass that to you.
Adrian Lynn had a 20-year hiatus, Unfaithful, his last film, in 2002.
I thought that was his movie.
Very similar to
All right, so
yes, agreed.
The Deep Water in 2022, with a runtime of 1 hour and 55 excruciating minutes, a well-to-do husband who allows his wife to have affairs in order to avoid a divorce becomes a prime suspect in the disappearances of her lovers.
I feel like that's incorrect also, what you just
Very much so.
Right?
So
fuck it.
Yeah.
That's what they said during this movie, so whatever.
Yeah. Hulu was like, I don't know, write something. Okay. Yeah.
I'm just glad that guy from the kissing booth got what was coming to him.
Son of a bitch.
Euphoria. Yeah.
Yeah, and Euphoria, that as well, yes.
And look out, Lil Rel Howery and something else. I mean, man is unstoppable.
So, Andy, we've reviewed every one of his movies from 2021 except for Free Guy, because all of his movies were streaming at some point. And then when I saw him pop up in this movie, I was like, are you fucking kidding me, Lil Rel? I'm like...
A really odd role, too. I know maybe this is not what we want to start with. But
one of the more interesting parts of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, but tonally, it's just like such a shift.
It totally is. The whole movie, I think, takes a huge tonal shift. Like honestly, we're an hour and 20 minutes in, and all of a sudden the characters' personalities change. And I was like, huh? Like there was no rhyme or reason to it. One thing I will say with this movie, like I used the word vibe when we reviewed Fresh, and I was like, I totally vibe with. And Fresh, if you haven't seen Fresh yet, Andy, watch Fresh. It's so good. I'm like, I vibe with this movie. Now, this movie, I didn't really vibe with the whole thing, but the look of this movie, I was like feeling it the whole time. The cinematography, the colors, just the way everything was framed, the editing. Like, I liked how this movie looked, but the story itself was a bit. They wanted that whole unfaithful or Basic Instinct, or they wanted that feel to it. But part of that is you have to have like two interesting characters. And I felt like Ben Affleck's character was interesting. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel like, what's her name? Ana de Armas. I hated her from the minute I met her.
Yeah.
And didn't care for like the rest of the movie. Until that weird tonal shift, like halfway through, or not more than halfway through, where she all of a sudden is like, oh, I love you now. And I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. So anyway, I'll let one of you talk.
I think the problem with this movie is like, it's not sexy.
It is not.
Like, I think, and I don't, that sounds so kind of like, okay. But like, clearly that's what they're going for. Clearly we're going to watch this movie, or they imagine you're going to watch this movie and, have some sort of level of desire. Now, Ana de Armas is a beautiful woman, but they've created such a character where she's so unpleasant to be around. It's not even that, oh, I understand why yes, again, she's beautiful. I understand why all these guys are going to risk their lives. There's constant rumors that Ben Affleck's killed somebody else to be banging her right in front of Ben Affleck. And it's like a really hard thing to kind of like figure out. Plus, she's so like distasteful of a person that you're not sure why Ben Affleck still wants to be with her. Now, again, spoilers, maybe this is just like their fucked up game. It also doesn't really play into that.
No, that's what I thought where we were going. I was like, oh, it's going to turn like halfway through and she's going to be like, did you get rid of the body? And that never happens. There's no turn of where then I would be like, oh, okay, so these two, like kind of like a Gone Girl, like these two fuckers are just crazy. And
here's my thing that really bothered me the most. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, no, go ahead.
When the daughter is in the bathtub and she's like, how did you do it? Like, totally knows. And he's just like talking, like, oh, it'll be our secret. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, of course, the whole thing with the suitcase and the water.
The daughter was ride or die. The daughter was ride or die. I honestly thought at some point that she was going to push the mom down the stairs and be like, Daddy, Mom fell.
It was actually the daughter the whole time killing
all those guys, giving them snails they're well fed snails, as we learned.
And then they have that whole snail line in there, like, well, if you don't clean the snails, you'll die because you'll be poisoned. Yeah. Why wasn't that part of the plot of the movie?
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, he was killing these guys. They're choking on them, or do we think he killed the first guy?
I think so. I mean, right?
He was practice.
Yeah.
Well, because he said like, "Oh, they found him." The way he told
they very briefly say that they caught the killer, and that kind of gives. So I think what they were doing there, I don't know if they were saying that he killed him or not. That little bit of information was for the rest of the lovers that she had. Oh, well, he really didn't kill that guy because they caught the other guy, so that they were less suspicious, I guess. But like you guys said, after he drowns the one guy in the pool, you would think the next guy would be like, you know what? No, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good. I heard about your husband.
Well, see, there's another plot hole because it appears that the wife doesn't work, but she's writing checks for like private eyes and giving money to dudes.
Well, because he's like a tech billionaire, though, I think, or millionaire, like multi-millionaire. So they have money. But she clearly...
but it's obviously, he's in charge of the cash and, kind of controlling everything. It's like, he's going to see it dishing out checks to scrupulous people.
And I think...
Do you guys think... I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you think that they should have cast Ben Affleck in this movie? Like, is he too strong of a persona? A persona, and also like,
I thought he was good though.
I'm not saying that. I just mean Ben Affleck is Ben Affleck, right? Yeah. He's a tabloid fixture for 20 plus years. Plus, like, he's a former sex symbol.
Yeah.
Would have been better if Ana de Armas was with maybe not a sex symbol, so that we maybe could have like embodied this role to. Wayne was reading what the synopsis is, but like, oh, I don't want my wife to divorce me. I am going to kill these guys, rather than like, oh, I'm Ben Affleck. I'm also very sexy. Why would my wife be banging all these dudes?
And
like,
you wouldn't give, and you wouldn't.
I'm a billionaire. Like, what?
I'm Batman. You wouldn't.
That was right. That was what I was going to say. When he has the interaction with the last guy and he throws the rock, I pictured I'm Batman.
I think what you're saying, what would have been perfect casting probably is if you wouldn't do this because he's not a star, but Tracy Letts, who plays the older gentleman, if he swapped spots with Ben Affleck and you had a much older guy and he was a much older guy with a much younger woman, if that was the dynamic and he had to like let his wife have her way because he just energy wise couldn't keep up with her anymore. But then eventually, a screw went loose, which is kind of what they go with for Affleck, because he's obviously older than her. But what you're saying, like the fact that he's a sex symbol or a former sex symbol, whatever, he still looks relatively younger. Like he's not.
Yeah, he's fit. He's biking everywhere. Like,
he doesn't look like a guy who would just sit there and let his wife, a cuck basically, and that's basically what he is.
He's a hot wife, and no, I mean, I know the movie, like, we can't take it too seriously because of. Of what happens in the movie, but it's also like And I feel like, you mentioned Tracy Letts, and he's basically playing himself, right?
Yeah.
An accomplished playwright, screenwriter. And he also married to a woman that kind of looks like Carrie Coon. So, I don't know if you guys know he's married to Carrie Coon. But
I didn't know he was married to Carrie Coon. I know that they were in the one TV show together, The Sinner, but I didn't know.
The Post, they were together in the movie. I thought he kind of hammed it up at the right parts, though, like him driving. You can't see me, but
you
son of a bitch! I'm not going to correct with this.
I did love that part where he was trying to not only is he running from a killer, but he's trying to tell his wife that not that he's being chased by a killer, but that he was correct.
I was
called her. God.
Yeah, that didn't. I mean, right, Wayne? It made no sense. Why? Yeah, call her. Why are you driving like an idiot here?
And why are you swerving to miss him? He's a serial killer. That
was the other. And what's funny was when that happened. When that moment happened, we're giving spoilers, people. So sorry. When that moment happened, I was like, because I could tell he was going to catch him. I'm like, instead of running into him, he's going to swerve and miss him for no reason whatsoever. But just, I guess maybe it's a reaction. Like that's the thought behind it. Like,
seatbelt just in case. What? Okay. Why was he there though? Did Ana de Armas character say, "Oh, go pick up this scarf for me"?
She had already told her husband to do it, so they
That's the other thing about the Melinda character. Yeah. Her lovers are mysteriously vanishing. Next.
Well, and that's just it. Like, she got really upset when Jacob Elordi from Kissing Booth and Euphoria died, and like 5 days later, she's with the other dude. So I'm like, is she
my old friend? Yeah,
it was such a quick move on to the other. Like,
sure,
I don't know. It was like I said,
a passage of time that they poorly executed. But
is this movie good if you are watching it as a gag? I mean, if you're watching with friends, we're gonna have some laughs and point out how stupid this is. Is it fun in that way?
One of the things I heard about this movie was one of the people I follow on Twitter called it the Ben Affleck hand job movie. So I was like, oh, so that means that there's going to be a scene in this movie that's wild. And no, apparently what they meant was that's really, if you're into hand stuff, watch this movie, because that's basically all you see the majority of the time in this film. And I was like, that's an interesting premise to take into an erotic thriller. It was we're only ever going to do hand stuff, and that's it.
I wonder if that's because in the teaser for this movie, it's towards the end of the movie when they're having their picnic.
Yeah.
In the teaser, they cut out the part where they show his hand on her leg.
Oh, okay.
And it's when I first saw the teaser, I was like, oh, she's giving him an HJ. It is cut in that way. He's gone.
Yeah.
You can't see my face, and that's probably a good thing. What I was just doing.
Andy was giving us an O face.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. You mentioned the daughter earlier and how
she was great, by the way. The daughter was fantastic.
She was fun. Yeah, but also where are the kids in this movie? All these parents are another party where we're high and drunk, and this guy drowned.
And what is up with the whole neighborhood being hey, what's going on?
I know, that was the other thing. I was the whole time I'm do people go to sexy time pool parties that I'm not invited to? What is going on in this movie?
It's another one of my sexy parties.
Yes.
And you guys have kids. What does this work? Oh, leave the room and go upstairs. No.
Here, take this drink to mommy's friend.
Not to mention when she was when she was 6 years old and it was bright, sunny daylight outside. He was like, time for bed. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But okay.
There's just it's not sexy, and there's not really real tension between the characters. It just kind of gets boring, which is shocking to say.
Yes.
But I think why I asked that question is if you watch it as a gag or for laughs, maybe it's more enjoyable. I say that for the people that maybe are listening to this.
Yeah.
Because if you take it as a serious movie, it's just going to be leave you frustrated here.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a lot more wild, which was why which was what I was hoping for. But it really,
you were.
Well, in that sense too, it was tame in a lot of ways. It wasn't as outrageous as I was thinking it was going to be. But like I said, it looks beautiful. So I mean, if you just want to watch pretty pictures for
X that box,
a bunch of people trying to give each other hand stuff, then this is the movie for you.
You set the record for hand stuff, HJs. I don't know how many.
Now this be Hand Stuff, the movie starring Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Captain Hand Stuff. I don't know. So the next movie, we're not going to rate this one just because obviously you can tell we didn't really care for it. And we don't need to lop on the negativity for it. But it's on
4.
Hulu.
I give it a 4.
4 out of 10. I would agree with that. Actually, that's a good number.
Fair. That's fair.
And we've talked about this before, Wayne. Like, it was technically it's a well-made movie when you look at it, lighting, cinematography, but everything else is just kind of a fucking mess. So,
it was so beautiful when the dead arm came floating up from the water,
which was so. Oh God, I could talk about this movie longer just because of how ridiculous that scene was too, and how long he stared at him. All right, so this next movie, guys. Alienator. Now, every once in a while, I'll just be watching something on Tubi or I'll be scrolling through and I see a movie and I was like, the cover box was the Alienator, which is the woman in the space bikini, and I'm like, in her giant blonde wig. And I'm going to be honest here. I saw that poster. I thought that was Jan Michael Vincent. So
yes,
I was like, because you can't tell that she's wearing a bikini on the poster I saw. The one that's on Tubi. It's just like her face.
Did you see the tagline on the poster?
Oh, it's hilarious.
In deep space, the deadliest animal is still a woman.
Oh my God.
This is a different movie that they're advertising.
Well, here, the poster I'm looking at Wikipedia, an android hunter from outer space is about to create hell on Earth.
Holy shit.
Oh, there's another one. Alienator, the ultimate Terminator.
Well, and that's obviously the inspiration for this movie. That was their, hey, you saw Terminator, right? Well, what if we did this? And everyone's like, here's $5 million. Go make it happen. I don't know if that's how much it cost.
We started the show talking about the 1990 Academy Awards.
Here, this film
was like early 80s. Like, seriously.
I watched it and I was like, sometimes I think, when I was young, it wasn't that long ago. Then I watch a movie like this, and it's like, this is ancient history. This passes as entertainment. I think what was fantastic, though, like one of my biggest laughs, the movie begins, and it says, an amazing film's production.
Yes, amazing.
I thought, oh, yes. One of the classic amazing films.
Yep. Oh, my God. That was great.
Alienator. I got to get this out. The Alienator reminded me of Daryl Hannah.
Yeah.
That wig.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Face, yeah.
There was a special edition Shout Factory, Scream Factory release of this, guys, back in 2013.
Nah, really?
Yep, on Blu-ray. It's got its fans apparently because Scream Factory only does it when people care. So
yeah, that's true.
Let me just read the official synopsis or summary of Alienator on IMDb. Cole is an evil guy about to be executed on a distant spaceship. He manages to escape on a shuttle and makes his way to some woods in America. The commander of the spaceship decides to send out the Alienator to execute Cole at all costs. Cole meets up with some teens and Ward Armstrong, and together they all try not to get killed by the pursuing woman of death.
That's a great write-up for this movie.
Compelling and rich.
Compelling and rich.
There were some things that I liked about the movie.
All right, what were they?
The green space lasers.
Yeah, the space laser.
The Star Wars sound effects?
Star Wars sound effects, and there's a lightsaber late in the movie.
Yes, thank you.
I think I mentioned this for the last movie. This, and I know, like, every time I come on here, we're watching just nothing but turds.
Sorry, Andy, we do watch good movies.
Every time I come on here, I'm just like, Mr. Curmudgeon, this is a piece of shit. But I kind of enjoyed that it was a throwback to 50s sci-fi.
Yeah.
And that it actually had casts. The cast was from a lot of those 50s sci-fi movies. The older cast, not the teens. I'm doing air quotes. because these people are clearly not teens.
Because they were like 35.
But I think that was cool because those actors took it very seriously.
Yes.
Like the guy who played Lund, the guy who played the ward, the guy who was like the mustached stranger that had all the guns. Like they took it very seriously in like a 50s sci-fi way. And I enjoyed that. I mean, the younger actors, the teens, they were pretty horrible. Like the dialogue, their dialogue acting mix was really bad. But I enjoyed having this kind of like mixed generations. Just as like a cinephile film viewer. That was fun. I enjoyed the repeated use of Jan. Is it Jan or Jan?
I think it's Jan Michael Vincent. That's how I've always heard it.
I've been saying scum. He must have said scum like a dozen times. This cold guy's nothing but scum. We got to wipe him out.
Yes. This must have been because he had drug problems. This must have been when he was on a lot of cocaine because he looked like he was high all the time. And every line I wrote this down. I don't have my notebook on me, but I wrote every line he delivered sounded like a one-liner. Like they were hoping that everything he was going to say, there was going to be like a Schwarzenegger type thing, a moment that they could use. And I was like, bro, every time he spoke, I'm like, come on, man.
They call me Snake.
Yeah, basically.
If you were drinking a few beers with your buddies and watching this, though, you'd have a good time.
Oh, for sure. I think it's definitely an entertaining film, but it is bad. So, like,
it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. There's some hilarious lines in it, and that kind of earlier to what I was saying. Like, some people taking it seriously, some people clearly phoning it in, some people trying hard but they suck. Like that makes kind of for an interesting cocktail. Some of my favorite one-liners when the guy's drinking these beers, driving one of the teens.
Yes.
Come on! I drive better on a couple of brews anyway. Cracking up in Budweisers. I enjoyed that PJ Souls was in this.
Yes.
You guys remember her?
Yeah, she was on this. I was trying to pinpoint her at first. I'm like, oh, she's the one on the spaceship with
from Carrie, Halloween, Rock and Roll High School, Stripes.
Of course.
Local H album is written about her. What happened to PJ Souls?
Yeah.
I also enjoyed that, at least at the beginning, it was fairly morally ambiguous. Now, normally in 80s and 90s action movies, especially shitty ones like this, it's not. Okay, Jan Michael Vincent is the good guy. But he was such a shithead, and you were like not really sure anything about this cold guy.
Supposed to root for him, yeah.
Like, maybe he's not such a bad guy, However, it kind of ends up reflecting that time period. And here's my big, how do you get this much out of this movie? But it kind of has a very Reagan-esque 80s feel to it in terms of what
it was shot in 88 too. So it was shot in the 80s. Yeah.
So what happens when you kind of chip away at authority for people that might be sympathetic, or that are upstarts or progressives, those who maybe are a little different. They talk about these people being mutants.
Yep.
What happens when you give them too much rope and ultimately, spoiler, this Cole guy's horrible, right? He's deceptive. He's weak. And so I think it's very reflective of kind of that period's
that time frame of when it was
morality and in terms of people that aren't as well off, / won't pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Special guest.
This is me in putting my own political beliefs in here.
Going deep in Alienator. I like it.
But yeah, I feel like it's in there. And I find that piece of it kind of from a historical sense kind of makes it interesting. But also there's a Daryl Hannah in a metal bikini. So
yeah. I would have thought that they would have given her some more dialogue to give some one-liners. Maybe she was just a terrible actress. I don't know. I did love that it was Anne Tegan as Alienator. I was like, who the fuck is Tegan?
She was in Penthouse that month.
I figured that's what she. Once I saw her, I was like, oh,
huge. She looked like a wrestler.
Yeah, Tegan Clive. I assume she was a female wrestler. Or a bodybuilder. That's what I thought.
Also, what a bad shot for an android.
Yeah,
she couldn't shoot anybody.
No, she couldn't. She was terrible.
How about one last note? How about these hicks in the movie? No wonder rural people resent Hollywood. It's everybody's deliverance. Oh, hey, Michael, I was supposed to look after you.
You talking about Hulk Howell?
Yeah, yeah.
That's horrible.
Oh, jeez. What are we gonna do?
They were fantastic, but also from a different film. That's what it seems like.
Anyway, that was my soliloquy.
Wayne, any final thoughts on Alienator?
Nope.
Summed up beautifully.
I got 300 words. Wayne's got one.
Hey, you know what? It's not a good movie, but it's one of those kind of B movies that I think you could have a good time with. If
I had to choose, hang on, I got one. I've got several, maybe 25. If I had to choose between Deep Water and Alienator, it's Alienator.
All day, every day, Alienator. I would watch Alienator on a loop over watching Deep Water again, probably. Unless I was really into hand stuff that day. So I don't know. Alienator.
Off the rails.
Alienator, I don't know, 6 out of 10 for if you're drunk, 3 or 4 if you're sober. I would say
that's fair. That's fair.
Because what I also thought was interesting is it looked like an 80s movie, but editing and music wise, it felt like a 90s movie, a straight to VHS 90s film. Now it says it was released in 90, but it was really released in 89, like right before the year turned. But
I think Tubi said 80, even called it 88.
Yeah, they said because it was made in like 87, 88, and then it was released, I think, the end of 89 maybe or something. But it definitely, to me, it felt like a movie I would see a straight to video 90s VHS title. But yeah, I mean, it's not uninteresting. So if you want to check it out, it's on Tubi. There's lots of good stuff to watch on Tubi. This is obviously a trashy B movie, or C movie rather. But they actually have a lot of good stuff on Tubi, which is free. So if you've never used Tubi, check it out. It's got a lot of free stuff on it. Cool stuff. All right, so I'm gonna not really say much of what I watched, but you guys, we're running long here. So Andy, anything that you would recommend that you watched recently?
Sure. It just finished its second season, although I think the second season came out last year. TV show called This Way Up. It's on Hulu. It's got Aisling Bay.
They put season 2 out already? Season 1's great, yeah. I
mean, they're short seasons. The way I've been selling this to people is it's kind of a mix of Catastrophe and Fleabag.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of dark comedy that is really funny.
Yeah.
If you like that. I think Aisling Bay. She was also in that show with
Paul Rudd on Netflix, yeah.
I think, anyway.
The two Paul Rudds.
Yeah, the two Paul Rudds, yeah. Definitely recommend that. I just started watching Winning Time on HBO. Enjoying that so far, although the portrayals of some of these guys are like pretty despicable. So I know, like, particularly the way they paint Jerry West, I know has gotten a lot of blowback so far. But this is from our buddy Adam McKay, so he's been getting a lot of mentions on the pod here.
Yes.
But I watched Power of the Dog last night. I know Kirky, you kind of singing its praises. I really liked it as well. I didn't say much about it earlier, but fantastic performance. It's beautiful movie. Yep. I know it's the front runner, but at the same time, I hope it doesn't win, a whole plethora of awards. And I'm excited to watch the second season of Upload, which I know is out on Prime right now.
Yep, I haven't watched it yet, but the first season was so good.
Haven't watched the first season. Yeah, totally under the radar too.
Yep.
And then looking forward to Moon Knight when that's out on Disney.
Same here. Yeah, we just finished watching Peacemaker. Yes, I let my 12-year-old, almost 12-year-old son watch it with me.
I haven't started that at all.
So good. Good. Inappropriate, but so good.
I expect, yeah.
Wayne, anything you've watched recently you want to talk about?
I am making my way through my rewatch of The Walking Dead, trying to catch up and all that stuff. Why, I still don't know, but I am enjoying these early seasons because that was when the show was
It was
really
good early on, man. It was good for a while.
Are you going to watch the spinoffs too, Wayne? Or I know there already are spinoffs, but like the additional spinoffs?
All 12 of them?
Yeah. I really did not like Fear the Walking Dead when it came out, so I gave up on that pretty quickly. Once I finished The Walking Dead, I may give it another go, but I'm more interested on the future show, the one that's only sorry, what?
The Maggie Negan one?
No, the one where the kids are
Oh, that one, yeah, the World Beyond or whatever, yeah.
And I think that's actually finishing now because it was only supposed to be 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, I don't think they did much of that one. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I've been focusing on this week.
Nice. All right. I'm not gonna really say. I'll just list though because I haven't posted anything in a while, but or this week. The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I talked about pieces of her. Oh, the tragedy of Macbeth. Wow. Just I don't know if you guys have seen that one yet. Denzel Washington, Joel Cohen.
Did you understand anything that they're talking about?
I think so.
That's my review of the movie. Looked beautiful, but also like, what the?
What the fuck? Shakespeare. Come on. What were you thinking? No. I did watch, because of Tubi, I watched Eye of the Tiger with Gary Busey. Actually has Eye of the Tiger, the song, in the movie. Another batshit crazy movie I watched, Prisoners of Ghostland with Nick Cage. Definitely worth watching for its batshit craziness. Along with For the Sake of Vicious, which is on Shudder. They're both on Shudder. Just bizarre movies. Ascension, nominated for Best Documentary. Did not care for it. It was really, really boring. I did watch Attica, though, which is another Best Documentary nominee, and that one was really good. Obviously depressing with what happened at Attica. Titane, I mentioned. I watched Summer of Soul, which is the front runner for Best Documentary. That was good. I mean, it's just like a 2-hour concert, essentially.
What's your review of Titane? Should I watch that?
Yes, watch it. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Just watch it.
Okay. Well, you know, I like weird movies. Did you ever watch?
It's weird. Watch it by yourself, because my wife fell asleep and then she woke up at the end like, "What the fuck are you watching?" I was like, "Hey, you missed."
Did either of you watch Benedetta?
Not yet. I'm going. It's on the radar though. Wayne won't like it. It was good.
That's one of my favorite movies of last year.
Oh, okay. I'll have to watch it. It's lesbian
really
nuns, Wayne. See, now you're more interested.
Yeah.
All right, real quick, I'll run down the news and notes. Martin Freeman officially returning to the MCU with Secret Invasion on Disney+, Discovery Plus merging with HBO Max. With Ty West exiting theaters this weekend, it'll be last weekend when this episode comes out. He's already announced that a prequel starring X's Mia Goth has already been shot, and it's called Pearl. The Boys season 4 renewal has already been revealed. Sorry, what, Andy?
Sorry, is that a spoiler then? There's a prequel with Mia Goth?
I don't know if it's a spoiler. There's a trailer, so don't watch the trailer to Pearl. I'll tell you that much, because I haven't watched it. But I heard the trailer will spoil some shit. Let's see. The Boys season 4 renewal revealed before a third season has released. New Amsterdam will end after fifth season. Michelle Dockery, latest to join Sam Raimi, produced Boy Kills World. Puss in Boots 2 is actually happening. The Last Wish will hit theaters later this year, I believe, already. Antonio Banderas, Salma Hayek returning with Harvey Guillen, Florence Pugh, and Olivia Colman joining them. Paul Wesley playing young Captain Kirk on Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Kyle Gallner and Johnny Berchtold will star in the Passenger TV series being produced by Blumhouse and Epix. Meg Ryan directing rom-com A Lady's Guide to Selling Out for Netflix. Sydney Sweeney joins Dakota Johnson in Sony Marvel film Madame Web, directed by S.J. Clarkson. Jack Black returning to voice Poe for Kung Fu Panda series at Netflix. Eric Bogosian from Uncut Gems and many other older films is the interviewer in Interview with the Vampire TV show. Scott Derrickson's next movie will be The Gorge. Nick Stahl, the star in Dead in Winter, Walking Dead special, which is a spinoff of his character on Fear the Walking Dead. Play-Doh, the animated film, in the works with The Big Sick. Writer Emily V. Gordon set to write the screenplay, and John M. Chu is eyeing the director's chair. True Detective Night Country is happening at HBO with Issa Lopez and Barry Jenkins teaming up on the project. I believe Lopez will direct and Barry Jenkins is producing. Release is coming up. Tokyo Vice with Ansel Elgort and Ken Watanabe debuts on HBO Max April 7th. Miss Marvel hits Disney Plus June 8th. Pentaverite, starring Mike Myers, hits Netflix May 5th. We Own the City miniseries with John Bernthal from The Wire creators and the director of King Richard debuts on HBO April 25th. Netflix Resident Evil series debuts July 14th. Deaths this last week. William Hurt passed away at 71. Brent Renaud, documentarian, killed in the Russian war, dead at 50. And then Scott Hall, wrestler known as Razor Ramon, dead at 63. Rest in peace to the Razor. That's our show for this week, guys. I know we went long. We appreciate everyone that listens. Andy, thank you for coming on again for the third time. We really appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Thanks for inviting me. What's the record? Do I get a jacket when I'm a 5-time?
You have been on the most, so we'll see. Maybe we'll do like that SNL does with the 5-time club. We'll send you out a jacket or a hat or a button, maybe.
Yeah, a paper clip.
Yes. I'm just gonna write on a notepad and sticky note.
Since we deal with movies mostly, a half-eaten box of the Wonder Mints.
There you go, or some Raisinets, maybe some Goobers.
Goobers, yes.
Wayne, any final thoughts for this week?
Thank you for listening.
All right, everybody. It's been a great show. Thank you for listening to Now Showing with Mike and Wayne.
Ronald Reagan, the actor?
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hey, everybody, we're all gonna get laid.